Millionaire left wife unaware she's pregnant. Months later, he's called to save her and the triplets. Ethan Reed's hand froze over the contract worth $50 million. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing for the past minute, his personal line, the one only 3 people had. He ignored it, pen poised to sign, until his assistant burst through the boardroom doors, her face white as paper. "Mr. Reed, you need to leave. Now." The room of investors turned to stare. "This can wait 5 minutes, Patricia." "No, sir, it's your wife. She's at Seattle General. Critical condition." The pen dropped. Wife. The word hit him like a physical blow. Grace. The woman he'd walked away from 8 months ago. "There's more," Patricia whispered, leaning close. "She's in labor. With triplets. Your triplets." The boardroom spun. Triplets. 3 babies he never knew existed. 3 babies who might never take their first breath. 3 reasons his world just shattered. He ran from the room, leaving $50 million unsigned on the table. The November rain hammered his Bentley as he drove through Seattle like a man possessed. One thought screaming through his mind. He'd abandoned his pregnant wife, and now he might lose all 4 of them forever. Before we dive into this incredible story, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more stories about second chances and the power of redemption. 8 months earlier, everything had been different. Ethan Reed stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching Seattle wake up beneath him. At 34, he'd built Reed Dynamics from a startup in his garage to a tech empire worth $500 million. The business magazines called him a visionary. His competitors called him ruthless. But Grace called him hers. He smiled at the thought of his wife, probably already awake in their Bellevue mansion, working on her latest charity project. Grace Harlow Reed was everything his world wasn't. Warm where he was cold, open where he was guarded, trusting where he was suspicious. They'd met 2 years ago at a charity gala he'd attended only for the networking opportunities. She'd been coordinating the silent auction, wearing a simple black dress that probably cost less than his cufflinks, but she'd commanded the room with her genuine enthusiasm for the cause, building schools in underprivileged areas. "You don't care about the wine or the schmoozing," she'd said when she caught him actually reading the information cards about the children they were helping. "Neither do you," he'd responded. "No, but I care about those kids." "What's your excuse?" "I was one of those kids once." It was the first honest thing he'd told anyone in years. Their romance had been a whirlwind that the Seattle society pages couldn't get enough of. The cold tech mogul and the warm-hearted charity coordinator, the billionaire and the teacher's daughter, the man who trusted no one and the woman who trusted everyone. They'd married a year later in a small ceremony that Grace had insisted on, despite his offers of something grander. "I don't need to prove anything to anyone," she'd said. "I just need you." For a year, it had been perfect. Or at least, Ethan had thought it was perfect. Grace softened his edges, made him laugh, reminded him that there was a world beyond stock prices and acquisition deals. She'd turned their mansion from a showpiece into a home, filling it with warmth and laughter and the smell of her experimental cooking. But perfection, Ethan had learned long ago, was just disappointment waiting to happen. The cracks started small. A text message she'd quickly close when he entered the room. A lunch meeting with her college friend Marcus that ran 3 hours. A new dress he hadn't seen her buy that she said was a gift from a friend. Ethan knew he had trust issues. His father had abandoned their family when Ethan was 12, after cleaning out their savings for his secretary. His first business partner had tried to steal his company. His college girlfriend had cheated with his roommate. Trust, in Ethan's experience, was just betrayal that hadn't happened yet. But Grace was different. Grace was supposed to be different. The article changed everything. It was a Thursday morning, and Ethan was drinking coffee in his office when Patricia knocked. "Sir, you might want to see this." She placed a tablet on his desk, open to the Seattle Times lifestyle section. The headline read, "Grace Harlow Reed, the heart behind the tech giant's success." The article was a glowing piece about Grace's charity work, how she'd quietly donated millions of Ethan's money to various causes, how she spent her days coordinating fundraisers and visiting schools. It should have made him proud. Instead, it made him suspicious, because the byline belonged to Marcus Chen, her college friend, the one she'd been having those long lunches with. The article included photos, Grace at various events, always glowing, always surrounded by people. In one, Marcus had his arm around her shoulders as they laughed at something off camera. The caption read, "Old friends reunited for a good cause." Ethan read the article 3 times, each reading making him angrier. Not at the content, but at the subtext he was sure he saw. The way Marcus described Grace's laugh, the detailed knowledge of her daily routine. The quote from Grace, "Marcus has always understood my vision." Always understood. Not Ethan. Marcus. He went home early that day, finding Grace in her office, working on grant applications. "Good article," he said from the doorway. She looked up, smiling. "You saw it? Marcus did such a nice job. It should really help with fundraising. How long have you been meeting with him?" Her smile faltered. "What? Marcus? How long?" "I told you. We've been coordinating on the article for a few weeks." "Just the article?" Grace stood up, confusion clear on her face. "Ethan, what is this about? You tell me. 3-hour lunches, private meetings, him writing love letters disguised as articles." "Love letters? It's a piece about charity work. It's a piece about how amazing you are, written by a man who clearly wants you. Marcus is married. So are you." The words hung between them like a blade. Grace's face went from confused to hurt to angry in seconds. "How dare you? How dare you accuse me of—" "I'm not accusing, I'm asking." "No, you're not. You've already decided. I can see it in your eyes. God, Ethan, after everything, you still don't trust me. How can I, when you're sneaking around—" "I wasn't sneaking. I was working on a charity project with an old friend. But you see betrayal everywhere because you can't believe someone might actually love you without an agenda." "Maybe because everyone always has an agenda." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "I don't. I never have. I loved you, Ethan. Not your money, not your status. You. But you can't see that because you're so broken by your past that you're destroying your present. If you're unhappy—" "I wasn't unhappy until 30 seconds ago." The argument escalated. Every insecurity Ethan had buried came pouring out. Every time Grace had tried to help him trust, thrown back in her face. It was ugly and painful and nothing like the quiet, controlled man Ethan usually was. Finally, Grace said quietly, "You're going to drive me away with these accusations, and then you'll use my leaving as proof you were right all along. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I'm tired of fighting against it." "Then don't fight," Ethan said coldly, his defensive walls fully up. "Maybe we both need space. Maybe you need someone who understands your vision better." "You're really going to throw that in my face?" "I'm not throwing anything. I'm stating facts. This isn't working." "Because you won't let it work." "Because I can't be wondering every day what you're really doing, who you're really with." Grace stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "You want to know what I was really doing? I was planning a surprise. The charity is naming a wing after your mother, the woman who raised you alone after your father left, the woman who died before seeing your success. I wanted to honor her memory, and Marcus was helping because he has connections at the hospital. That's what those meetings were about." Ethan felt the world tilt. "Grace? But you couldn't trust me enough to just ask. You had to assume the worst." She wiped her eyes. "I can't live like this, Ethan, constantly having to prove I'm not cheating, not lying, not betraying you. It's exhausting." "I can change." "No, you can't. Not until you deal with your issues and you refuse to even admit you have them." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you're right. Maybe we do need space." "Grace?" "No, Ethan. You've made it clear you can't trust me, and I can't live with someone who sees me as a threat rather than a partner." The conversation ended with Ethan packing a bag. He told himself it was temporary, just some time to think. But as days turned to weeks, his pride wouldn't let him reach out. He changed his phone number after a business security breach, telling himself he'd give Grace the new one when things cooled down. He threw himself into work, into a merger that required him to be in Tokyo for 3 months. He never filed for divorce, neither did she. It was like they were both frozen, neither able to move forward nor back. What would you have done in Grace's position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Meanwhile, Grace was facing a crisis of her own. 2 weeks after Ethan left, she'd woken up violently ill. At first, she thought it was stress. The end of her marriage, the humiliation of being abandoned, the whispers in their social circle. It was enough to make anyone sick. But when the nausea didn't stop, when she started getting dizzy just standing up, she finally went to the doctor. "Congratulations, Mrs. Reed. You're pregnant." The words didn't compute. "That's impossible. I'm on birth control." Birth control can fail. It's rare, but it happens. And in your case... The doctor paused, looking at the ultrasound screen with a strange expression. "Mrs. Reed, I need to do a more detailed scan." An hour later, Grace sat in shock as the doctor explained. "Triplets. You're carrying triplets." 3 babies? It's extremely rare, especially spontaneous triplets. You're about 6 weeks along. 6 weeks. Right before the fight, right before Ethan walked out. Grace tried to call him that night, but his number was disconnected. She called his office, but Patricia said he was in Tokyo and had specifically requested no personal calls be forwarded. She could have pushed, could have flown to Tokyo, could have made a scene. But her pride, wounded by his accusations and abandonment, wouldn't let her. If he didn't want her, he wouldn't want their babies either. So Grace made a decision. She would do this alone. The first step was practical. She sold her jewelry, including her wedding ring. It brought in enough to cover immediate medical expenses. She sold her BMW, buying a used minivan instead. She moved from their Bellevue mansion to a small apartment in Ballard, unable to afford the mortgage on her own. She'd never taken money from Ethan beyond household expenses, always maintaining her independence through her work. Now that independence would be crucial. She expanded her freelance graphic design business, working from home to accommodate the increasingly difficult pregnancy. Triplets meant triple the symptoms. The morning sickness lasted all day. By month 4, she could barely walk without getting winded. By month 5, she was on modified bed rest. By month 6, she was seeing the doctor weekly. "You need support," Dr. Martinez said during one appointment. "Carrying triplets is extremely taxing. Is there anyone you can call?" "I'm managing," Grace insisted. But managing was getting harder. She'd hidden the pregnancy from mutual friends, too proud to admit that Ethan had left her pregnant and alone. She told people they were working through issues, that he was traveling for business, anything but the truth. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly widow, became her lifeline. She brought Grace groceries, helped with laundry, sat with her during the scary moments when the babies would go too quiet or move too much. "You should tell him," Mrs. Chen said one evening, watching Grace struggle to get comfortable with her enormous belly. "He made his choice. Maybe he didn't know what he was choosing. He chose not to trust me. That tells me everything." At 28 weeks, the complications started. High blood pressure, protein in her urine, preeclampsia threatening to become full eclampsia. "We might need to deliver early," Dr. Martinez warned. "You should have your support person ready." Grace laughed bitterly. Her parents were gone. Cancer took her mother, a heart attack her father. Her sister lived in Australia, and her husband thought she was a cheater. "It's just me," she said. "Grace, delivering triplets is serious. If something goes wrong, then you'll handle it. I trust you." But at 31 weeks, Grace's body decided it couldn't wait anymore. She woke at 3 a.m. in agony, her sheets soaked with blood. She managed to call 911 before passing out. Mrs. Chen heard the ambulance and followed to the hospital. It was she who, going through Grace's emergency contacts, found an old business card for Patricia Williams, Ethan's assistant. She who made the call that would change everything. Back in the present, Ethan burst through the hospital doors like a man possessed. He'd run from the parking garage, not waiting for the elevator, taking the stairs 3 at a time to the maternity ward. "Grace Reed," he gasped to the first nurse he saw. "Where is she? Are you family?" "I'm her husband." The nurse's expression softened slightly. "She's in OR 3, emergency C-section. There's a waiting room. I need to see her. Sir, she's in surgery. The doctors are doing everything they can. Triplets. She's having triplets? Yes, it's a complicated delivery. Dr. Martinez is the best. She'll take care of them. Ethan found himself in a waiting room, his designer suit soaked with rain, his hands shaking. Patricia arrived minutes later, having followed him from the office. Sir, I've called in Dr. Rothschild from Johns Hopkins. He's the best neonatal specialist in the country. He'll be here in 3 hours. 3 hours might be too late. It's the best I can do. How long has she been in surgery? 2 hours, according to the desk. 2 hours. His wife, estranged wife, had been fighting for her life and their children's lives for 2 hours while he'd been signing contracts. I didn't know, he said to no one in particular. She was pregnant, and I didn't know. She tried to call you, a voice said from the doorway. Ethan turned to find an elderly Chinese woman watching him with stern eyes. You're Mr. Reed? Yes. Who are you? Mrs. Chen, Grace's neighbor, the one who's been taking care of her while you were off being important. The condemnation in her voice was clear. I didn't know she was pregnant. Because you left, changed your number, cut her off like she was nothing. It's complicated. No, it's simple. You abandoned your pregnant wife because of your pride. She's been alone for 8 months, sick, scared, selling everything she owned to pay for medical care while you played businessman. Each word hit like a physical blow. She sold things? Her wedding ring, her car, her mother's pearls, everything. Too proud to ask you for money, too hurt to beg you to come back. Why didn't she tell someone? Our friends would have told you. And she knew you didn't want her, so why would you want your babies? I would have. Ethan stopped. Would he have? If Grace had reached him, told him about the triplets, what would he have done? Come back out of duty? Accused her of trying to trap him? He sank into a chair, the weight of his choices crushing him. I destroyed everything. Yes, Mrs. Chen agreed, but she still asked for you. When they were putting her under, she asked for Ethan. Even after everything, she wanted you there. A doctor in surgical scrubs entered the waiting room. Mr. Reed, Ethan jumped up. How is she? The babies? I'm Dr. Martinez. Your wife is stable but critical. She lost a lot of blood. We had to do an emergency hysterectomy to save her life. And the triplets? 2 girls and a boy. They're premature, obviously. The next 48 hours are critical. They're in the NICU. The boy, he's the smallest. We're having trouble with his breathing. Can I see them, see her? Grace is still unconscious. She'll be in recovery for several hours, but you can see the babies through the NICU window. Ethan followed Dr. Martinez through hospital corridors that seemed endless. Finally, they reached the NICU. Through the window, he could see 3 tiny incubators, each holding an impossibly small baby, covered in wires and tubes. Baby A is the boy, Dr. Martinez explained. He's just over 3 pounds. Baby B and C are the girls, 3 pounds 2 ounces and 3 pounds 4 ounces. They were so small, so fragile, so perfect. Ethan pressed his hand against the glass, tears streaming down his face. His children, 3 tiny humans he'd never known existed, fighting for their lives while he'd been fighting for market dominance. What are their chances? He asked quietly. With proper care. Good, but it'll be a long road. Months in the NICU, probably. Whatever they need, whatever it costs. Mr. Reed, I should tell you, your wife has been paying out of pocket. Her insurance lapsed after I left. The guilt was suffocating. Send all bills to me, past and future, and I want the best specialists, equipment, whatever these babies and Grace need. The NICU is already at capacity. Then build a new one. I'll fund it. Just save my family. Do you believe in second chances? Let me know in the comments. Ethan spent the next hours making calls, not to business associates but to medical professionals. He had the head of neonatology from Seattle Children's Consulting within 2 hours. He had specialized equipment flown in from Los Angeles. He turned the hospital's small family room into a command center, coordinating care with an intensity he usually reserved for billion-dollar deals. Patricia watched her boss transform. The cold, calculating CEO became a desperate father, throwing money and influence at the problem like he could buy his family's survival. "Sir, you should eat something. Rest." "I can't. Not until they're okay." "This isn't a business problem you can solve with resources." "Then what good is all my money if I can't save them?" It was the first genuinely humble thing Patricia had heard him say in 5 years. 6 hours after surgery, Grace began to wake up. Ethan was there, having bullied his way past visiting hours and nurse protests. He sat beside her bed, holding her hand, studying the face he'd once known better than his own. She was pale, thinner than before despite having carried triplets. Her hair, once lustrous, was limp and dull. She looked fragile in a way that Grace had never looked before. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they landed on him. "Ethan?" Her voice was hoarse, confused. "You're here?" "I'm here. I'm so sorry, Grace. I'm so sorry." "The babies, are they—" "They're alive. They're in the NICU. They're fighters, like their mum." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I tried to tell you when I found out, but you were gone." "I know. Mrs. Chen told me. I'm sorry. I changed my number after a security breach, and I was in Tokyo, and I—" He stopped. "No excuses. I failed you. I failed them. 3 babies, Ethan. I was so scared." "Why didn't you reach out to someone? Anyone? And say what? That my husband left me because he thought I was cheating, and, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant with triplets?" I had some pride left. "Pride?" The word tasted bitter. "My pride destroyed us." "Yes," Grace agreed quietly. "It did. I know I have no right to ask, but can I be part of this? Of their lives? Of yours?" Grace looked at him for a long moment. "They're going to need their father, especially if—" She stopped. "They're going to make it, all 3 of them. And so are you. The doctor said the boy, James." "What?" "I thought, if you agree. James for the boy, after my grandfather. The only man in my family who stayed." Grace's expression softened slightly. "James. And the girls. Your choice. Lily and Rose, my grandmother and mother." "Perfect." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down. "I can't just forgive you," Grace finally said. "You left me. You accused me of betraying you when all I'd ever done was love you." "I know. You'll have to earn my trust back, if that's even possible. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy. You need therapy for your trust issues." "Already called Dr. Brennan. I have an appointment tomorrow." Grace looked surprised. "You hate therapy." "I hate losing you more." "Ethan, I know it's not that simple. I know I can't just throw money at this problem and fix it. But Grace, let me try. Let me prove that the man you married is still in here, just buried under years of fear and stupidity." Before Grace could respond, alarms started going off in the direction of the NICU. A nurse ran past their room. "What's happening?" Grace tried to sit up, gasping in pain. Ethan was already moving. "I'll find out. Stay here." He ran to the NICU where doctors were crowding around one of the incubators. James, his son. "What's wrong?" Ethan demanded. "He's crashing," Dr. Martinez said tersely. "His lungs aren't developed enough. We need to intubate." Ethan watched in horror as they worked on his tiny son, inserting tubes, adjusting machines, fighting to save a life that had barely begun. Is he going to make it? "We're doing everything we can." It wasn't enough. Ethan needed it to be enough. "What does he need? Different equipment? Another doctor? Tell me what to do." "He needs time, Mr. Reed. And maybe a miracle." Ethan had never been a religious man, but he found himself praying then. To any God that would listen to the universe, to his mother's spirit. "Save my son. Save all of them. Let me have the chance to make this right." The next hours were the longest of Ethan's life. James stabilized, then crashed again. The girls, while stronger, had their own challenges. Grace developed an infection from the surgery, spiking a fever that had doctors concerned. Ethan didn't leave the hospital. He set up a rotation. An hour with Grace, an hour in the NICU, repeat. He read to the babies through the incubator walls, telling them about the life they'd have, the home they'd come to, the love waiting for them. "Your mom is the strongest person I know," he told them during one 3 a.m. visit. "She carried you 3 alone when I was too stupid to be there. She sold her mother's pearls to buy your cribs. She never gave up on you, even when I gave up on her." "You didn't give up on me," Grace's voice came from behind him. She was in a wheelchair, Patricia pushing her. "You shouldn't be up." "I needed to see them." She looked through the glass at their children. "They're so small, but strong, like you." "I wasn't strong, I was just surviving." "That's the definition of strength." Grace wheeled closer to the glass. "Hi, babies. It's Mama. I know it's scary out here, but you need to fight, okay? Your daddy and I are waiting for you." "Your daddy," she'd said your daddy, not just Ethan. Over the next week, things slowly improved. James's lungs developed enough to breathe with less assistance. The girls started gaining weight. Grace's infection cleared up. Ethan never left. He had Patricia bring him clothes, his laptop, everything he needed to work from the hospital. But work became secondary. His family was primary. "The Tokyo deal fell through," Patricia informed him one day. "Mr. Yamamoto wasn't happy about you leaving the signing." "Good." "Good? Sir, that was $50 million. I almost lost my family for $50 million. It's not worth it." Patricia stared at him. "Who are you and what have you done with Ethan Reed?" "I'm trying to be the man Grace married, not the one who left." Therapy started while they were still in the hospital. Dr. Brennan came to them, understanding the situation. The first session was brutal, with Ethan having to confront the deep-seated abandonment issues that made him push people away before they could leave him. "You created what you feared most," Dr. Brennan observed. "You abandoned your family before they could abandon you." "I know that now." Knowing and changing are different things. This will take work. Hard work. "I'll do it." And he did. Every day, therapy. Every day facing his demons. Every day proving to Grace that he was committed to changing. 2 weeks into the NICU stay, James pulled out his breathing tube on his own, a sign he was ready to breathe independently. The nurses called it his graduation day. Ethan cried harder than when he'd made his first million. 3 weeks in, Lily opened her eyes and seemed to focus on Grace's face. Rose followed suit an hour later, like she didn't want to be left out. "They know you," Ethan said, watching Grace interact with their daughters through the incubator holes. "I talked to them every day when I was pregnant, told them about everything, even about you." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That their daddy was complicated but good underneath, that he was scared of being hurt, that maybe someday he'd come back." "You thought I'd come back?" "I hoped. Even when I hated you, I hoped." 1 month in, the babies were moved from incubators to regular bassinets. They still needed monitoring, but they could be held. The first time Ethan held James, his son so tiny he fit in one hand, he sobbed. "I'm sorry," he whispered to his son. "I'm sorry I wasn't there, but I'm here now, forever." Grace watched him, seeing glimpses of the man she'd fallen in love with, the one who'd admitted to being a scared kid once, the one who'd let her in before fear took over. "We need to talk about what happens when they come home," she said one evening. "Come home where? I have an apartment in Ballard." "That's not home. Home is our house in Bellevue. Your house. Our house. It's in both our names. I never changed that." Grace looked surprised. "Why?" "Because even when I left, I couldn't fully let go. Some part of me knew I was making a mistake." "Then why didn't you come back?" "Pride, fear, stupidity. Pick one." "All three." "All three," he agreed. The conversation about their future was complicated. Grace wasn't ready to just move back in like nothing had happened. Trust, once broken, wasn't easily repaired. But Ethan was persistent in his efforts to rebuild. He attended every therapy session. He was transparent about everything, where he was, who he was with, what he was doing. He started couples therapy with Grace, working through the hurt and betrayal. "I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again," Grace admitted during one session. "I understand. But let me earn whatever trust you can give." 6 weeks after birth, the triplets were finally ready to go home. But home was still a question mark. "Stay at the house," Ethan proposed. "Not with me, I'll take the guest wing, but the nursery is set up, I've hired help. Everything they need is there." "Ethan, no pressure, no expectations. Just let me help. Let me be their father. Let me prove I can be the husband you deserve." Grace agreed, partly out of practicality. Caring for triplets alone would be impossible, and partly because she saw how much Ethan had changed. The arrogant CEO was gone, replaced by a man who changed diapers at 3 a.m. without complaint, who sang off-key lullabies, who looked at their children like they were miracles. The house felt different when they returned. Ethan had removed all traces of his cold corporate life. The sterile mansion had been transformed into a warm family home. The nursery was perfect. 3 cribs, a comfortable nursing chair, shelves stocked with everything triplets could need. "You did all this?" Grace asked. Patricia helped, and Mrs. Chen. She had very strong opinions about baby-proofing. Grace smiled despite herself. "You let Mrs. Chen boss you around. She saved you when I didn't. She can boss me around forever." Those first weeks at home were exhausting. Triplets meant someone was always hungry, always needing changing, always crying. But Ethan was there for all of it. He took the night shift so Grace could recover from surgery. He learned each baby's different cries, their preferences, their quirks. James was the serious one, observing everything with solemn eyes. Lily was the demanding one, making her needs known loudly. Rose was the cuddly one, happiest when being held. "They're all so different," Ethan marveled one evening, all 3 babies finally asleep. "They're individuals, not a set," Grace reminded him. "I know. It's just amazing. 3 humans who didn't exist 9 months ago. Who almost didn't exist at all." The weight of that hung between them. "Grace, I need to say something." "Ethan, please. I've been practicing with Dr. Brennan." Grace nodded for him to continue. "I accused you of cheating because I was terrified you'd leave me. So I pushed you away first. It's what I've always done. Leave before being left. Hurt before being hurt. But in protecting myself from imaginary pain, I caused real pain. To you, to our babies who grew without their father, to myself. I'm sorry not just for leaving, but for not trusting the one person who'd never given me reason to doubt." The Marcus situation was innocent. I know that now. I knew it then, deep down. But my fear was louder than logic. "I can't go through that again, Ethan, I won't. These babies need stability." "You'll never have to. I'm different now." "How do I know that?" "You don't. I have to prove it, every day, for as long as it takes." Subscribe if you believe love deserves a second chance. 3 months passed. Ethan kept his word, staying in the guest wing, being present without being pushy. He went to therapy religiously. He was transparent about everything. He rebuilt his company with new priorities, family first, business second. Grace watched him change, saw him become the man she'd glimpsed when they first met. The babies thrived under their joint care, and slowly, carefully, she began to trust again. The moment things shifted was subtle. Ethan was giving Rose a bottle at 4 a.m., singing the lullaby his mother used to sing to him. Grace stood in the doorway, watching. "Your mummy is the bravest person I know," he was telling Rose. "She fought for you when I was too scared to fight for us. But I'm not scared anymore. I'm going to spend every day showing all of you that you're loved, that you're safe, that I'm never leaving again." "You mean that?" Grace asked. He looked up, not surprised to see her. "Every word. Even the scared part? Especially that. I was terrified, Grace. Of being hurt, of being left, of not being enough. So I made sure I wasn't enough by leaving first. And now? Now I'm more terrified of life without you all than any imaginary betrayal." Grace moved into the room, sitting beside him. "I was scared too, that I wasn't the sophisticated wife you needed, that you'd realize I was just a charity coordinator playing in high society. You were never playing. You were real in a world of facades. It's what I loved most and feared most." "Why feared?" "Because real people can really hurt you. Fake people can only fake hurt you." "That's very philosophical for 4 a.m. "I've had a lot of time to think." They sat in comfortable silence, Rose sleeping between them. "I miss you," Grace admitted. "Not the CEO Ethan, but the one who cried at our wedding. The one who stayed up all night when I had the flu. The one who used to leave me funny notes in my lunch bag. He's still here. Just rehabilitated." Rehabilitated? Like an injured athlete. Had to rebuild from the ground up. And you're rebuilt. I'm rebuilding. Every day. With help. Dr. Brennan says you're making remarkable progress. You talked to my therapist? He said I could share that much, that you're doing the work. It's hard work. Most important things are. A week later, they were having dinner, a rare moment with all 3 babies sleeping, when Ethan asked, "Would you go on a date with me?" "A date? Start over, properly. Let me court you like I should have kept courting you after marriage." "Ethan, no pressure, just dinner, conversation, remembering why we fell in love before fear got in the way." Grace considered. "Okay. Really? Really. But we go slow. Glacial if you need." Their first date was awkward. Neither quite knew how to act, but the second was better. By the third, they were laughing about James's new ability to spit up with projectile accuracy. By the fourth, they were holding hands. "This is weird," Grace said. "Dating while living together with 3 kids. Weird but nice. Weird but nice." Ethan moved back to their bedroom 2 months later, after a particularly hard night, when all 3 babies were sick and they'd worked as a perfect team. "Stay," Grace had said simply. "Not in the guest room. Here." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure I want to try. That's all I can promise." "That's enough." It wasn't easy. Trust once broken is never quite the same. But it can be rebuilt into something different, sometimes stronger. They went to couples therapy weekly. Ethan continued individual therapy. They communicated with an honesty that was sometimes painful, but always necessary. The triplets' first birthday was a milestone nobody had been sure they'd reach. The NICU staff came, as did Mrs. Chen, Patricia, and the new friends they'd made in their Parents of Multiples group. "A year ago, I almost lost everything," Ethan said in his toast. "My wife, my children, myself. But Grace's strength, the baby's fighting spirit, and the support of all of you saved us, saved me." He looked at Grace, who was holding Lily, while Rose and James played with cake. "I don't deserve this second chance, but I'm grateful for it every day." "You're earning it," Grace said softly. "Every day, you're earning it." As the party continued around them, Ethan pulled Grace aside. "I have something for you." He handed her an envelope. Inside was the deed to a new charity wing at Seattle Children's Hospital, the Grace Harlow Reed Center for Premature Infant Care. "Ethan, you saved our babies by being strong alone. Now other mothers won't have to be. This must have cost less than I almost lost by being stupid. Money is just money, Grace. Family is everything. You really have changed. I had a good teacher. 3 of them, actually, in incubators." That night, after the triplets were asleep, Ethan and Grace stood in the nursery watching their children. "Do you forgive me?" Ethan asked. "Really forgive me?" "I'm getting there," Grace said honestly. "Every day you stay, every promise you keep, every time you choose us over work, I forgive a little more. And trust? That's harder, but it's growing, like them." She nodded at the babies. "Slowly but surely. I'll take slowly but surely." "Good, because that's all I can offer. It's more than I deserve. Stop saying that. You're their father, my husband. You deserve the chance to be both properly. Even after. Especially after. People who've fallen know how to be careful when they climb again." 2 years passed. The triplets grew from fragile preemies to robust toddlers. James remained serious, becoming the protector of his sisters. Lily was fierce and independent, first to walk, first to talk, first to get into everything. Rose was the peacemaker, the cuddler, the one who brought books to be read. Ethan's business thrived with his new perspective. He worked from home often, never missing a milestone. He was in therapy still, not because he needed it, but because it kept him grounded. Grace reopened her charity work, now with the resources to make real change. The Grace Harlow Reed Center had saved dozens of premature babies. Her marriage had become a partnership of equals. "Remember when you said I'd need someone who understood my vision?" Grace asked one evening, referencing that terrible fight years ago. "Don't remind me of my stupidity." "No, listen, you were right in a way. I did need someone who understood my vision. And once you stopped being afraid, you did understand. You supported it, funded it, expanded it. So I was accidentally right while being completely wrong?" Something like that. They were interrupted by Lily escaping from her crib again and running into their room. "No sleep," she announced, climbing onto their bed. "Young lady," Ethan started, but then James appeared, dragging his blanket. "Lily out, so I out." Then Rose, not to be left alone, toddled in with Mr. Buttons, the same bear Grace had kept from her pregnancy. "Family bed?" she asked hopefully. Grace and Ethan looked at each other, then at their 3 escape artists. "Family bed," they agreed, as the triplets settled between them, creating chaos out of what should have been bedtime. Ethan reached over their heads to take Grace's hand. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For being strong when I was weak, for protecting them when I failed, for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve. Thank you for taking it, for doing the work, for becoming the man I always knew you could be. I love you. I love you too, all 4 of you." 5, Lily corrected. "Mr. Buttons too." 5, Grace agreed, laughing. The family that had almost never been, that had survived abandonment and premature birth and trust, broken and rebuilt, settled in for the night. Not perfect, but whole. Not without scars, but healing. Outside, Seattle rain fell steadily, like it had the night Ethan left, like it had the night he returned. But inside, they were warm and safe and together. "Daddy, story?" Rose asked. "Rose, what kind of story?" "How you met Mommy?" Ethan and Grace exchanged glances. They'd have to edit heavily. "Once upon a time," Ethan began, "there was a man who was very silly and very scared. And a woman who was very brave and very strong," Grace added. "And 3 babies who were very small but very mighty," James contributed, understanding this was their story. "And they all found each other just in time," Lily concluded, already crafting narratives at 3. "Yes," Ethan agreed, holding his family close, "just in time." The years that followed weren't without challenges. When the triplets turned 3, Ethan faced his biggest test yet. His father, William Reed, the man who'd abandoned him and his mother decades ago, reached out. The email came on a Tuesday morning while Ethan was making breakfast, James helping by stirring pancake batter with more enthusiasm than skill. "Daddy, why you look sad?" James asked, noticing Ethan's expression change. "Just thinking, buddy." Grace appeared, Rose on her hip, Lily trailing behind wearing a tutu over her pajamas, her new favorite look. "What's wrong?" Grace asked immediately. 3 years of rebuilding had taught her to read him perfectly. He showed her the phone. The email was brief. "Ethan, I know I have no right to contact you after 30 years. I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. I'd like to meet my grandchildren before it's too late. William." Grace's face went through several emotions. "How do you feel about this?" "I don't know. Angry, scared, confused. All valid. He left us with nothing. Mom worked 3 jobs. She died before seeing my success. And now he wants to play grandpa?" "Daddy's daddy?" Lily asked, proving 3-year-olds heard everything. "It's complicated, sweetheart." That evening, after the triplets were asleep, Ethan and Grace discussed it in depth. "I don't want him near them," Ethan said initially. "He doesn't deserve to know them." "This isn't about deserving," Grace said carefully. "It's about what you need, what you'll regret." "You think I should see him?" "I think you should talk to Dr. Brennan about it. This is triggering every abandonment issue you have." She was right. The next therapy session was intense, with Ethan confronting the root of all his trust issues, his father's abandonment. "He made me believe I wasn't worth staying for," Ethan admitted. "What if my kids feel that someday? Have you given them any reason to feel that?" No, but... No buts. You're not your father. You came back. You stayed. You changed. After weeks of therapy and discussion with Grace, Ethan decided to meet William, alone first. The man in the hospice bed looked nothing like Ethan's memories. Cancer had ravaged him, leaving him skeletal and grey. But the eyes, Ethan saw his own eyes looking back. You came, William wheezed. I almost didn't. I wouldn't have blamed you. William coughed, a harsh sound. I know sorry means nothing after 30 years. Then why say it? Because it's true and because I need you to know. It was never about you. You were perfect. It was my failing. That's supposed to make it better. Mom died thinking she wasn't enough. I know I kept track. I know about your success, your wife, the triplets. I know I gave up everything that mattered for nothing that did. Why did you leave? William closed his eyes. I was terrified of failing you, so I left before I could. Stupid logic, but addiction and fear don't breed smart choices. Addiction, gambling, lost everything, borrowed from bad people, left to protect you and your mother from my mistakes. Told myself you were better off without me. We weren't. I know that now. Knew it then, probably, but was too much of a coward to face it. They talked for 2 hours. William filled in gaps, where he'd been, what he'd done, how he'd followed Ethan's success from afar, too ashamed to make contact until death made him desperate. I want to meet them, William said finally, not to be their grandfather, just to see that the Reed line produced something good despite me. Ethan discussed it with Grace that night. I don't want them hurt, he said. They're 3. They won't understand the complexity. To them, he'll just be a sick old man. What if seeing him messes me up, makes me regress? Then we deal with it, together, like we've dealt with everything else. Ethan brought the triplets the following week. William cried when he saw them, James with Ethan's serious eyes, Lily with the Reed stubborn chin, Rose with a gentleness that reminded him of Ethan's mother. Are you sick? Rose asked with 3-year-old directness. Very sick, sweetheart. Daddy could help. He helps everyone, she said confidently. William looked at Ethan. You've become the man I should have been. I became the man Mom raised me to be. She did good. She did everything. The visit was short, William tired easily, but somehow healing. The triplets, unaware of the history, were simply kind to a sick old man. They drew him pictures, told him about their toys, and Rose even shared Mr. Buttons briefly, the highest honor she could bestow. William died 2 weeks later. Ethan attended the funeral, surprising himself by crying. He wasn't worth your tears, Grace said gently. I'm not crying for him. I'm crying for the father I never had, and the grandfather my kids barely met. But you're breaking the cycle. Our kids will never wonder if you'll stay. Promise? Look at your life, Ethan. You've restructured your entire existence around them. You're in therapy to be better for them. You sing silly songs and wear tiaras for tea parties and read the same book 15 times because James likes it. You're the father you never had. The William situation brought unexpected changes. Ethan established the Reed Foundation for Abandoned Families, supporting single parents and children dealing with abandonment. It was his way of making something good from something painful. Grace watched her husband transform his deepest wound into purpose. You're remarkable, she told him one evening. I learned from you. You transformed being left pregnant into strength. We're quite a pair. The best pair. When the triplets started preschool, it was Ethan who cried at drop-off. They're only gone 4 hours, Grace laughed, though she was teary too. 4 hours where I can't protect them. Ethan Reed, billionaire CEO, brought to his knees by preschool. Completely. But the freedom of those 4 hours allowed Grace to expand her charity work. The Grace Harlow Reed Center had become a model for premature infant care nationwide. She was invited to speak at medical conferences, sharing their story and advocating for better NICU resources. One such speech went viral. My husband left me, not knowing I was pregnant with triplets, she began. I could have been bitter. I was bitter. But those 3 tiny fighters in the NICU taught me that life is too precious for grudges. My husband came back, did the work, and became the father our children deserved. Not all stories end like ours, but all parents deserve support during crisis. The video was shared millions of times. Messages poured in from families who'd experienced similar struggles. It led to Grace writing a book, After the Storm, Rebuilding Trust in Marriage and Parenthood. "I'm nervous," she admitted to Ethan the night before the book launch. "Why?" "It's our story, our failures and recovery. What if people judge? Then they judge. But others will find hope." The book became a bestseller, not because it was perfectly written, but because it was honest about the imperfection of marriage, the work of rebuilding, and the choice to stay and fight. The Triplets, now 4, became local celebrities of sorts. Everyone wanted to meet the miracle triplets from the book, but Ethan and Grace protected their privacy fiercely. "They didn't choose this story," Grace said, declining another interview request. "When they're older, they can decide what to share," Ethan agreed. At age 5, the triplets started showing distinct personalities and interests. James loved building things, spending hours with Legos and blocks. Lily was athletic, climbing everything despite her parents' heart attacks. Rose was artistic like Grace, always drawing or crafting. "We need a bigger house," Ethan said one evening, surveying the chaos of 3 5-year-olds' interests spread across their living room. "I love this house." "So do I, but they need space to be individuals, not just triplets." They found a perfect place, still in Bellevue, but with more room and a huge backyard. As they prepared to move, Grace found a box in the attic. Inside were the papers from their separation, the ones Ethan had started but never filed. "You kept these?" she asked. "As a reminder." "Of what?" "Of how close I came to losing everything." Grace took the papers and, in front of him, tore them into pieces. "We don't need reminders of that anymore. We have better ones." She pointed to a wall of family photos, the triplets as newborns in the NICU, their first birthday, first steps, first day of school, and in the center a new photo from their recent vow renewal ceremony. They'd renewed their vows on their original anniversary, this time with the triplets as participants. James carried the rings, Lily threw flower petals with explosive enthusiasm, and Rose held the microphone for their vows, occasionally adding her own commentary. "Do you, Ethan, promise to love Mommy forever and not be silly anymore?" Rose had improvised, making everyone laugh. "I promise to love Mommy forever and only be the good kind of silly," Ethan had answered. What would you do if given a second chance at love? Share your thoughts below. The move to the new house marked another chapter. Each child got their own room, decorated to their interests. But most nights, they still ended up in a pile in someone's bed, unable to sleep truly apart. "They'll always have each other," Grace observed, watching them through the doorway one night. "The way we have each other now," Ethan added, pulling her close. "It wasn't always guaranteed. No. We had to fight for it. Worth the fight. Worth everything." As the triplets grew, so did the challenges. James was diagnosed with mild ADHD, requiring patience and structure. Lily broke her arm, falling from a tree she wasn't supposed to climb. Rose went through a phase where she wouldn't speak to anyone but her brothers. Through each challenge, Ethan and Grace worked as a team. The man who'd once run from conflict now faced it head-on. The woman who'd hidden her pregnancy out of pride now asked for help when needed. "We're good at this," Grace said after a particularly challenging parent-teacher conference about Lily's enthusiasm in class. "At parenting? At partnership. Real partnership. Only took us completely falling apart to figure it out. Sometimes things need to break before they can be rebuilt stronger." Their marriage had become an inspiration to others in their circle. Friends facing marital troubles often sought their advice. "How did you forgive him?" one friend asked Grace privately. "Slowly, daily, and only after he proved he'd changed. Forgiveness without change is just enabling." "But how did you know he'd really changed?" "Consistency, therapy, transparency, and time. Lots of time." Meanwhile, Ethan counseled a colleague going through abandonment issues with his kids. "You can't just come back and expect everything to be normal," Ethan said. You have to earn your place, every day, forever. Forever. Trust once broken requires lifetime maintenance. That sounds exhausting. It is, but the alternative, losing them, is worse. When the triplets turned 7, an unexpected challenge arose. A journalist, digging into Ethan's business dealings, uncovered the story of his abandonment and return. The headline was sensational. Tech billionaire abandoned pregnant wife with triplets, the shocking truth behind the Reed empire. The article went viral before Ethan's PR team could respond. Suddenly, their private pain was public consumption. "Daddy, why does this say you left us?" James asked, having seen the headline on a tablet at school. Ethan and Grace had always planned to tell the triplets eventually, but not like this. They sat the children down for an age-appropriate conversation. "When you were in Mommy's belly, Daddy made a big mistake," Ethan explained. "I got scared and confused and left. But when you were born and got sick, I came back." "Why were you scared?" Rose asked. "Because sometimes grown-ups have big feelings they don't understand. But I got help to understand them better." "From Dr. Brennan?" Lily asked. They knew Daddy still saw Dr. Brennan sometimes. "Yes. He helped me be a better daddy." "Are you going to leave again?" James asked, the protector. "Never. I promise on everything I love, which is you three and Mommy. I'm never leaving again." "Pinky promise," Rose demanded. "Pinky promise." The public scrutiny was hard, but it also brought unexpected support. Thousands of messages from families who'd experienced similar struggles poured in. The Reed family's story of breakdown and rebuilding resonated. "Maybe this is good," Grace said, reading some messages. "People need to know that perfection isn't real, that even billionaires have marriage problems. But at what cost? The kids are being asked about it at school. Then we teach them how to handle it, how to own their story." They hired a child psychologist to help the triplets process the public attention. Dr. Kim worked with them on understanding their family's history in an age-appropriate way. "Your family is special," Dr. Kim told them, "not because of money or fame, but because your parents chose to fix what was broken." "Like when I broke Mom's vase and we glued it back?" Lily asked. "Exactly. Sometimes broken things become stronger when they're fixed with care." The controversy eventually died down, replaced by other scandals, but it had taught the Reed family valuable lessons about privacy, resilience, and controlling their own narrative. Grace's second book addressed the public exposure, living in glass houses, protecting family while healing publicly. It became a resource for other families dealing with public scrutiny. By age 8, the triplets had developed their own understanding of their family's story. They knew Daddy had made mistakes, but worked hard to fix them. They knew Mommy was the strongest person in the world. They knew their family was different but solid. "We're like superheroes," Lily announced one day. "We survived being born too early and Daddy being silly." "Daddy wasn't silly," James corrected. "He was scared." "There's a difference." "How do you know?" Rose asked. "Because I get scared sometimes too. But Daddy shows me how to be brave." Ethan, overhearing this conversation, had to excuse himself to cry in private. Grace found him in their bedroom. "They understand," she said softly. "In their own way they understand. I never wanted them to have to understand. I wanted to be perfect for them. Perfect parents don't exist, but parents who own their mistakes and fix them, those are the ones who raise resilient kids." As their 9th birthday approached, the triplets made an unusual request. "We want to visit the NICU," James said, spokesperson for the group. "Why?" Grace asked. "To see where we started, and to thank the doctors." So they did. Dr. Martinez, still working there, gave them a tour. The triplets were fascinated by the tiny babies in incubators. "We were that small?" Rose whispered. "Smaller," Dr. Martinez said. "You three were fighters from day one." "Like Mom and Dad," Lily said proudly. They donated their birthday money to the NICU that year, starting a tradition that would continue. The triplets who'd fought to survive wanted to help other babies fight too. Ethan's business had transformed completely. Reed Dynamics was now known as much for its family-friendly policies as its innovation: paternity leave, on-site childcare, and mental health support were standard, revolutionary in the tech world. "You're costing us money," his CFO complained. "I'm investing in humans," Ethan corrected. "Humans who won't abandon their families for work because work supports their families." The policy attracted top talent. People wanted to work for a company that valued life outside the office. Reed Dynamics' profits actually increased, proving that supporting families was good business. "You've changed the entire industry," Grace told him proudly. "You changed me first. We changed each other." Subscribe if you believe people can truly change for love. At age 10, the triplets faced their biggest challenge yet. Rose was diagnosed with the same heart condition that had affected her in the NICU, a lingering effect of her premature birth. She needed surgery. The night before the operation, the family gathered in Rose's hospital room, the same hospital where she'd been born, where she'd fought her first fight. "I'm scared," Rose admitted. "Me too," Ethan said, holding her hand. "You get scared?" she asked, surprised. "All the time. But being scared doesn't mean we don't do brave things." "Like when you came back to us? That was the scariest brave thing I ever did." "Why?" "Because I had to face how much I'd hurt people I loved, but it was worth it." "This is worth it too," Rose decided. "Because I want to grow up and be an artist like Mom." "And you will," Grace said, though her voice shook. James and Lily climbed onto the hospital bed, carefully avoiding Rose's IV. "We'll be here when you wake up," James promised. "All of us," Lily added. "Forever family?" Rose asked, using their phrase from when they were tiny. "Forever family," everyone confirmed. The surgery was successful. Rose recovered with the same fighting spirit she'd shown as a newborn. But the experience had shaken everyone, reminding them how precious and fragile life was. "I want another baby," Grace said suddenly one night, months after Rose's recovery. Ethan nearly choked on his wine. "What?" "Not triplets, just one. A baby we could experience together from the beginning." "Grace, we're 40 and 45. The risks." "I know the risks, but I also know that our family feels incomplete somehow. We have 3 kids who are growing up, who don't need us the same way. And we're different people now, better people. I want to parent a child with the man you've become." Ethan considered this. What if something goes wrong? What if I panic and revert? Then we handle it, like we've handled everything else. The triplets would love a sibling. You know, Lily's been asking for a baby sister since she was 5. After much discussion, medical consultation, and therapy sessions, they decided to try. It took a year and fertility treatments, but finally, Grace was pregnant again. A single baby this time. Telling the triplets, now 11, was entertaining. "Finally!" Lily shouted. "I've been waiting forever!" "Will it be a boy or girl?" James asked practically. "Can I teach it to paint?" Rose asked. "We don't know yet." "Yes, and yes," Grace answered. This pregnancy was different. Ethan was there for every moment, every appointment, every milestone, every 3 a.m. craving run. He talked to the baby constantly, making up for the silence during the triplets' gestation. "You're going to be so loved," he whispered to Grace's belly. "You have the best mommy and 3 siblings who are already fighting over who gets to hold you first. And the best daddy," Grace added, "one who knows how to stay." The baby, another girl they named Hope, was born healthy and full term. Ethan cut the cord with steady hands, crying openly. "She's perfect," he whispered. "They all are," Grace said, watching through the window as the triplets met their sister, their faces full of wonder. Hope's arrival changed the family dynamic beautifully. The triplets, now pre-teens, took their role as older siblings seriously. James was protective, Lily was playful, and Rose was nurturing. "We're teaching her everything," they informed their parents. "Everything? Except Daddy's bad jokes," Lily clarified. "Those die with his generation." "Hey," Ethan protested, making everyone laugh. Watching Ethan parent Hope from infancy was healing for Grace. This was the father he would have been if fear hadn't intervened. Patient, present, devoted. "No regrets?" she asked one night. watching him rock hope to sleep. Only one. Still. That I missed this with them. He nodded toward the triplets' rooms. But I'm grateful I get it now. Better late than never? Better late and staying than early and leaving. Years continued to pass. The triplets entered high school. James focused on engineering, Lily on sports, Rose on art. Hope grew from baby to toddler to child, the cherished youngest who brought out everyone's softer side. Ethan's company continued to thrive with its revolutionary family policies. Grace's charity work expanded internationally. Their marriage, once broken, had become unshakable. "We should write another book," Grace suggested on their 20th anniversary, counting from their original wedding date. "About what?" "The after. Everyone focuses on the reunion, the forgiveness. But what about year 5, 10, 15 after rebuilding? The daily choice to stay rebuilt." "Staying rebuilt. The long journey after reconciliation," Ethan suggested. Perfect. They wrote it together this time, alternating chapters, showing both perspectives of long-term recovery from betrayal and abandonment. The book tour meant leaving the kids with Patricia, now more family than assistant, and Mrs. Chen, who at 85 was still bossing everyone around. "Don't worry about us," 15-year-old James said maturely. "We've got hope." "And each other," Lily added. "Forever family," Rose concluded. As Ethan and Grace traveled, sharing their story of breakdown and rebuilding, they realized how far they'd come. The couple who'd almost destroyed everything had built something stronger than what they'd started with. "Worth it?" became their check-in at every stop. "Worth everything," was always the answer. Because sometimes the worst moments, abandonment, premature birth, near loss, become the foundation for the best life. Not perfect, but real. Not without scars, but stronger for them. The millionaire who'd left his pregnant wife had become a father who'd never leave. The woman who'd hidden triplets had become a voice for struggling families. The triplets who'd barely survived had become thriving teenagers, and Hope, the baby they'd added when they were truly ready, was proof that second chances can create new beginnings. "Tell the story again," Hope would demand, like children do. And they would, each time adding new details, new lessons learned, new moments of grace. The story of a family that almost wasn't, but fought to be. The story of love that broke, but chose to rebuild. The story that proved that sometimes the ending isn't an ending at all, it's just another beginning.